I'm gonna get an update from our young intern in the studio, who's looking to become a sports broadcaster in the future. He's only 17. Is that correct? Yeah, he's only 17 years old and he's doing a very great job so far. Kumbuka hapa tujaanza kumtuma chai. Unajua internships Kenya, mara unatumwa chai, mara unaambiwa sijui uende ukanunue nini. Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Enda uchukue dry cleaning yangu.
Enda
uoshe gari.
Ngalile parking.
Okay.
Na park.
Nikatia kwa parking.
You don't do that this summer. So.
All right, Neyman. So reintroduce yourself to those who are meeting you for the first time and then give us the update that you have today.
How's everyone? My name is Nyman. As he said, I'm a guest here. 17. And I'm not sure if you guys see me in the last show, but I was here in the last show and the previous one. But continue to talk about the Women's World Cup. So first off, as we were talking about last week with African teams, we were talking about African teams and the 4 teams in the World Cup. Two of the teams that stood out, South Africa and Nigeria, they recently played games and they've had enthralling games. The games were really, 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 really good. So first we had Nigeria and Australia, the hosts, one of the hosts, Australia,
yeah.
The host, yeah. So Australia, they were expected to win. They obviously have the home advantage, but Nigeria, they gave them a tough fight. It started off with Emily Van Egmond. I'm not sure if I said that right, but she scored the first goal for Australia, and Uchenna Kanu replied quickly in additional time.
I don't know if she's related to Kanu.
Additional time. Yeah, Uchenna Kanu. Did I say that right?
Yeah. I was saying, you guys remember Kanu?
I don't think you'd remember Kanu. He wasn't born.
It doesn't have to be. He's a sports reporter.
He's a sports reporter, so you should know that.
He is.
Yeah.
But carry on.
Yeah, so she replied, Uchenna Kanu replied before halftime for Nigeria, tying the game. And then in the second half, Nigeria went on to dominate. The Eagles went on to dominate, and Oshinachi Ohale in the 65th minute scored for the Eagles. And then after that, in the 72nd minute of the game, Asisat Oshialo scored for them as well, making it 3-1.
Is that the one who took off, her
shirt? Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah, she took off her shirt. That was an interesting goal.
Yeah, dramatic.
Yeah, dramatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the book Rough Silk.
What a segue.
Yeah, so Nigeria went on to dominate the game, but Australia replied at the last minute with Kennedy scoring. So even though Australia, they lost the game, but they gave a fight, but Nigeria won the game and eventually.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next game, this was last night's game, Argentina and South Africa. This is a crazy game. South Africa, they looked like they were winning that game. They scored their first 2 goals. I mean, in the 30th minute, Linda Mothalo scored, and Thembi Kitiglana. Sorry about these names.
Don't worry. We will be butchering them.
Yeah. You need to get your African accent on.
She scored in the 66th minute of the game.
There you go. That one right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thembi Kitiglana, she scored in the 66th minute of the game. So yeah, they went on to dominate the game. But in the 74th minute of the game, Argentina, they changed. They had a spark. I could tell. They had a spark, and they completely changed their game. The Argentinians came back, and a beautiful strike from outside the box from Sophia Braun. And
that was a strike.
Yeah, what a goal.
Man, from the top of the 18.
Yeah, and equalizing the game 5 minutes later, Romina Nunes, she scored. So yeah, it was a crazy, crazy game. But the reason why I've been talking about, these teams and these 2 games in particular, something that, and it kind of ties with what you guys were earlier discussing about the women roles, but something that is clear and obvious in the women's game of football is the lack of attention that I noticed in some of these teams in their programs. I noticed that some of these games there's no competition. There's no competition, and we would see like hope for it, but there hasn't been. I mean, watched one of the games of Germany and Morocco. I'm not sure if you saw that. But that was a 6-0 game.
Yeah.
I'm sure Japan had one of their games
Zambia.
4-0.
Yeah.
Zambia, they're
Zambia.
getting beat up.
Mentioned.
Zambia.
They're getting beat up.
And you know, the coach had really talked smack before the game, you know, saying how Zambia is not an underdog and all that, but they got really punished. So there's still a gap between certain teams.
Yeah, I mean, they conceded 10 goals in 2 games.
Yeah, that's,
It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so which African team do you think, or rather, do you see an African team making it to the finals?
Making it to the finals? I mean, I wish I could say that we're in a, you know, this environment. We're all African here, but I mean, I don't see the finals for Nigeria. Like, Nigeria is the team that I'm talking about, but I see them being the strongest team.
Not even with that dramatic rough silk goal?
Yeah, I mean, Nigeria is realistically the best African team in this tournament.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was our update. Was there maybe anything else, you know, like what games the Team USA? I did come to learn that there's an Ethiopian American who's in that team. I can't remember her name, but I had her featured on NPR. I think her name is Girma. Very young. I can't remember how old. She went to, I think, San Diego. So very interesting. But do you think, you know, like the US, you know, after their second game, do you think they're looking like they will be in the finals?
In the finals, I mean, if they continue to focus, I mean, that game I was watching that game.
Yeah.
They definitely had a fight. So there's definitely a difference between the two teams, the US team in the last World Cup and this World Cup.
Okay, Mika.
Let me segue in here and then help out Young Blood in terms of how the team stand up. Now, this World Cup has been dominated by injuries, and even today we saw one of today's England's match early in the morning. We saw that one of their great players actually went down again with an ACL injury, and it's something that's actually being researched why female footballers are getting ACL injuries. Remember, the United States is missing 2 of its stars. England is missing 2 of its stars. Denmark is missing 2 of its stars. Germany is missing a player. Zambia are missing their star player. And actually, on paper, Zambia was supposed to be the strongest African team coming into this tournament. But I guess the injury and stage fright for this being, I think, the first World Cup, is they've just frozen and they don't seem to play. This is one of those World Cups, if we are seeing like the United States versus Netherlands games, was a very hard game. Now, Australia, who are one of the favorites, actually the second favorites of the United States to win the tournament, were shocked by Nigeria. So it's one of those World Cups where we cannot say that we are predicting this particular team is going to go through. If we look at the standings on teams that have already progressed, that have come through, we are seeing a team like China, who are actually considered one of the strongest teams in the tournament, actually not performing that well. We are seeing England also is just scraping through 1 year. So I think the next rounds, the knockout rounds, we have 2 more group stages game, and then we go to the final knockout games for this for the last games of the group stages for the knockout stage. And don't be surprised if a big name doesn't make it to the quarterfinal. That is what I'll tell everybody. Don't be surprised if a big name doesn't make it to the quarterfinals, because we have scenarios whereby 2 teams who are expected to coast through have not qualified, and they are maybe facing each other, or they're facing a team that doesn't have anything to lose and they're out there enjoying themselves, and these ladies are enjoying themselves. They're not joyriding, they're playing ball. So don't be surprised when the USA haven't qualified yet. They will make it, but if they get knocked out, don't get surprised.
Okay, so the USA might get knocked out. Neyman?
No, I actually take them to go all the way,
but there's a chance that they might get knocked out.
There's a chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to say is that with what you're saying, with this, you're essentially saying this is an underdog kind of World Cup. At the same time, you can say that, but at the same time, they're like as I was saying, with these countries, some of these countries, they they don't have, they can't compete. I mean, when it comes to that point, I don't think that they'll do anything.
This is the first World Cup that they're bringing in. I think it's 32 teams.
Right.
They were previously bringing 24 teams.
Right.
So I think, like there was 12 extra teams that came in that maybe would not have been in the World Cup if they still had 24 teams. Now, interestingly enough,
like
and it's definitely a different conversation when it's the knockout rounds and the group stage. Because the group stage and knockout rounds are two different things.
But now, the World Cup that's coming to the US, the men's World Cup that's coming to the US, they're also increasing the number of teams.
Right. Yeah.
I think because we're used to 32 teams, I think it's gonna be 48.
48,
Yeah, that's almost like March Madness.